Hey guys, and welcome to episode 3 of Sadie Has Way Too Many Art Supplies, otherwise known as all of my inking art supplies getting ready for Inktober. If you haven't seen the other 2 videos where I show all of my watercolor palettes and all of my brushes, I'll have them linked. So next month is Inktober. If you don't know what Inktober is, it's a inking challenge started by Jake Parker, but at this point it's really just an excuse for the art community to get together and create art every day for 31 days in October. The rules are have fun. That's kind of a joke. If you really want to be a stickler about it, the rules are you should use ink and it should be in black and white. But basically at this point, trying to stay in the general feeling of Inktober is pretty good. So first of all, let's start with inks. Specifically, pigment-based inks. Here are a pigment-based ink from a brand called De Atramentis. This is the turquoise and this is the brown. They have a range of colors. I got these 2 because when you mix them together you can get some pretty grays and blacks, and they are permanent. They're handmade ink, artisanal ink, and you can put them in fountain pens. These are like my favorite inks for fountain pens. I love them, and you can use them and put watercolors or whatever all over that. And also they're just good for legal documents if you're worried about ink getting washed away or anything like that. This is an iron gall ink in the color Scabiosa. It's a sort of pinkish color and it's really beautiful. Iron gall inks mean that it uses a chemical process to become permanent over time. This is from Roaring Klinger, who actually make these inks in Germany. And these also can actually be used in your fountain pen. So that's also pretty cool. This is an ink that I really rarely use because it is really weak, but it was so fun. I had to get this when I went to Cornelius's the first time. This is C. Roberson & Co. Penman's ink. This is Bay Leaf Green, and it looks, you can actually still see the price here, and it looks just about how you would expect it to. So this is just kind of more if you're going for a historical or maybe vintage type of look in your paintings. This is ink from J. Urban, and I really love this. This is Encre Authentique. This is banker's ink is what they call it. So it goes down a certain color, but really what happens is that over time it gets darker. First it goes on kind of gray, and then it gets darker. It doesn't get to a true black, but it's really pretty. I really love it. I don't believe that you should use this ink with a fountain pen, but it's a lot of fun to play with. So if you saw my AAC piece on the Tasmanian Devil, you saw me using this ink. This is Bistre. It is an ink from Roaring Klinger, and I really love this color. It's kind of like a sepia-ish color, and it's totally waterproof, and it behaves really well in a dip pen. It's really nice for using with a dip pen. Some things are too watery or too thick. This is perfect. This is sepia ink. This is from Pip Seymour, and to be honest, it's not very good. I have genuine sepia now, and it's really nice, but they haven't ground the cuttlefish fine enough for it to look like anything except for a chunkiness, unfortunately. This is genuine sepia ink. Unfortunately, it got cracked a bit when I was moving, but you'll see that it's totally different than the Pip Seymour sepia. It's really nice, and you can actually put this in your fountain pen ink. This is from a company in Japan called Hakase, and I believe they also make fountain pens. My husband got this for me as a gift. This is the dark version. It smells extremely strongly of ammonia because that is what the sepia is in order to make it into an ink, so be aware of that. This is a more normal selection. This is a Winsor & Newton ink. This is a liquid Indian ink, not the waterproof one. The waterproof one I think has a spider on it. This is really nice for different effects, and it has a pretty good thickness. It wasn't particular. This is a Swiss handmade ink company called Abraxas. This is their iron gall ink, and it is a sort of brown color. Do not use in fountain pens. The little bottle is so cute, right? Doesn't it just look like magic? I couldn't resist it. And the inks are all... This is one I'm just showing you to show the empty bottle because this actually dried out and I don't have any more of this, and I don't know if I'll replace it, even though I really, really liked it. It's pretty waterproof and it works really well with a dip pen. I like that the top, if you can see, has these little notches on it where you can rest your pen. That's really cool. And the shape of the bottle is really conducive to working directly out of the bottle, which most ink bottles are not. So this is a really cool ink. I would recommend this to anyone. Basic black ink. This would probably be the one I always like to use. So I'm not going to use this, and to be honest, I probably should throw it away because it developed mold, which is really gross. I think because it didn't get to close properly. But this is actually a walnut ink, which I was so excited to find. This is really commonly used as a practice ink for calligraphy, and it is kind of a more vibrant and warmer color than sepia. And once again, the bottle is so cute, so unfortunately I'm probably going to be throwing this away afterwards. Now, these are my little babies. These are my favorite acrylic inks. Roaring Clinger's drawing ink. They actually did this in cooperation with Schminke, and these are considered calligraphy inks. They are waterproof, resistant to erasing, and they are just really beautiful. They have the pigments and they have the light fastness rating. Wait, do they have the pigments? No, they don't have the pigments, but they have the opacity and the light fastness rating. And these are my favorite. I love the little pipettes. You can see they have a little bulb at the end, which makes it really easy to distribute just exactly the right amount of ink without dropping anything. And they are extremely pigmented. You only need a little bit of it and it goes a long, long way. Goldgelb, orange, cyanblau, magenta, turquoise, indigo, Gelbgrün, and Violet. Now these are the FW inks by Daler-Rowney. These are also acrylic inks. I really like these. They flow really nicely with a dip pen. They have a lot of brightness to them. They're not quite as vibrant as the Roaring Klinge inks, but they're quite nice. They come with a dropper. You really have to shake these up a lot because the pigment settles. The Roaring Klinge ones you don't have to shake quite as much. I think the pigments are more finely ground. These come with your pigment information and permanence information, as well as transparency. They're really nice. They're much more opaque than the Roaring Klinge ones, as you can see, this green. And I also have the pearlescent colors, which are nice and metallic and fun for things like galaxies or metallic accents. They also have a dipper, but it's not quite as cute. But then at least you don't need to use pipettes. So I have this one, permanent green, emerald green, pearlescent black, lemon yellow, waterfall green, sepia. Ooh, wow, look at that. Why is that so empty? I don't know. White pearl, processed cyan, galactic blue, platinum pink, processed magenta, moon violet, Rounding out my pigment-based inks, I have the Copic Opaque White, which I just had to reconstitute. The nice thing is it's really easy to reconstitute this. You just add some water. If you want, you can add distilled water to make sure there's no spoilage. I'm not sure if this was a good idea, but I added water and hydrogen peroxide. And so far, It looks okay so far. That's to make sure that you don't introduce bacteria and cause it to spoil. But this is the best white. Okay, and now for the dye-based. These are the Pebeo Colorex inks. So I got these basically because I saw Fran using the Ecoline inks and I didn't want to spend that money. So I got these instead. I think Pebeo is a French brand and I was able to get this set of colors, and I think it's basically the same thing as the Ecoline inks. It seems to just be a dye-based watercolor ink. Because they're dye-based, they're not light fast, of course, but they're really bright and really transparent. So this is magenta, sanguine. They also come with an opaque white, in this set anyway, an opaque white, and my favorite masking fluid, cobalt blue. It comes with a black India ink, cyan, and primary yellow. So it obviously depends on what country you're in, but if you're looking for a slightly cheaper alternative to the Ecoline colors, this is another ink from Diatramentis, Bordeaux Red. It has a really nice deep red color. I think that this is a dye-based ink. It is not waterproof. This is Leipzig Schwarz, Leipzig Black. So black from Leipzig, which is near Dresden where I used to live. It is a really nice color. Not just a standard flat black. And it writes really nicely in a fountain pen. And a dip pen, it's a little liquidy, but you can do it. J Urbain, this is Orange Indien, Indian orange. I think this is supposed to be the color of saffron. It's kind of cool that the bottle has a place for you to put your pen right here. It's a really bright, transparent yellow. This next color, this Apricot Sailor Gentle ink, is also a really nice, bright, gentle color. I didn't really like this in a fountain pen, but it is a really fun color. Another color from Abraxas, Schmaad Grün, Emerald Green. I think this has a minty smell. I feel like I remember it having a minty smell. A lot of the Abraxas inks have smells. This also has a nice little thing for you to put your pen in it. Abraxas always makes great inks. This is good for your fountain pen. Really bright, really transparent. So, and now two inks which are just kind of weird. I just wanted to share. So this is actually ink for making secret notes. Like you can put fire on it and it will reveal the message like it has here. And then this is gold ink. I'm not really sure why it's this color. I think it's supposed to be though. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm not sure if this ink from my box, this is a dye or pigment-based ink, but I wanted to show it to you because it is so cute. It's Nibs Tinte, which is Love's ink, and it smells like rose. It's so cute. Next, let's talk about technical pens. First, we've got an insanely old Sakura Micron. These are waterproof, archival, really great pens. These I feel like were the only technical pens besides the Rotring pens back in the day. Really nice. Only problem, I find them a little mushy, so they're not my favorite anymore. Next, I have the Rotring Tiki Graphic. These are also waterproof, archival. The only problem that I have with these is that the nib of the corresponding size feels bigger than with the Copic or other ones, and I feel like the ink flow makes things feel a little messy. I don't know. Next, we have the Copic multi-liners, which until recently would have been my default. I love these. I love the feeling of them. They're really waterproof. They're really clean. They're really nice and fine. I have literally had no problem with these. These are great. But probably in the future, these are what I'll buy because these feel a lot like the Copic multi-liners and they are a lot cheaper. Let's talk about brush pens. I don't have a ton of brush pens. I just have 2 packs. I have these Faber-Castell Pit Neon pens. They have a felt, fairly stiff nib, and the colors are really bright. They are pigment-based, so they are archival and permanent. Pretty useful for accents and things like that. I don't use them as much as I should. These are more of the Faber-Castell Pit pens, except this is the gray set, which because it comes in a variety of warm and cool grays. And this is perfect, I think, for something like Inktober, because you can do a whole monochromatic drawing with just these pens. The other brush pens that I have are these Zig Clean Color Real Brush Pens. I really love the brushes on these. They're really responsive. They're individual fibers. I love that you can blend 2 colors together with these markers. And the colors are really bright and cute. So fountain pens. I have fountain pens for writing, but I like also using these fountain pens for art. This Prera is such a lifesaver. If you are not really good at cleaning your pens and your ink drying out, the Prera is pretty good at making sure that your ink doesn't dry out. I like that it's pretty cheap, and I like that this is a demonstrator version. And the nib is pretty fine. I like fine nibs. It's the Duke. So this, you can see it has a kind of funny tip, so you can write this way and get fine lines, and write that way and get thick lines. Problem is, it runs out of ink like in the blink of an eye. It doesn't have a very good seal, so it'll dry up, and even when you put down the ink, it is just gone. But it's really nice for sketching and super cheap. Now these, if you don't know about these are the Pilot Petites. They will keep your ink liquid and won't let it dry out. And the best thing about them is that even though technically they come with a cartridge, you can just take that out, use silicone grease to make a seal on the threads and fill up this part with ink. And then you can put whatever ink in there. And since they're so tiny and so cheap, I don't care if I mess them up. You can put whatever ink, and if it doesn't work out, you can just throw it out. Try whatever kind of combinations that you want. They are super duper cheap, super duper nice, super duper reliable. Try them out. I have a couple more pen odds and ends. You've got your ubiquitous Jelly Roll in white, metallic, gold, and silver. I don't use these very often. I don't particularly like working with them, but I know everyone else does. I don't know. For some reason, I just don't like how they work. But I got them. Here they are. The white ones are pretty okay for doing details on black paper, and these for giving metallic accents. This is the Pilot Parallel pen. Why it's called parallel is because its nib actually has two parallel plates. The great thing about this pen is that it has a really awesome ink flow, and you can put basically any kind of ink into this body just the same way as you can with the Pilot Petites. And you can get some, oops, yeah, see, I haven't used this in forever and it's still wet. And you can get some really cool effects. The Rotring Art pen, depending on what you can get a whole set with different nibs. These are all oblique. Ooh, I just broke it. So they all have oblique nibs, and that's for doing like fracture, calligraphy, and things like that. Last but not least, my calligraphy nibs. This is my oblique pen holder from John Neal Bookseller. It's pretty good, pretty nice and light. It's a good feeling in the hand, a good starter oblique. Here's the Tachikawa pen holder. Definitely recommend getting this for most regular nibs as opposed to your standard pen holder because it doesn't have the issue of rusting, and you can put both regular nibs and crocodile nibs in it, and it has a nice cushion. It's really nice. And then these are two different types of holders for crocodile nibs that will not fit in the Tachikawa. Some need to go on one like this, and some need to go inside one like this. Just depends on the size. As you can see, I have a variety of old and new nibs that you could use for calligraphy and inking. This is technically not an ink, but it is a gold accent, which I think goes really nice with the spirit of Inktober, and putting just a little bit of gold in with your black and white. These are the Fine Tech metallic watercolors, and they're really beautiful. You need to put a little bit of water on them and let them sit for a while before you start working with them, and then afterwards you can get them nice and opaque. I recently added this to my Shiny Metallics collection. This is a Molotow Liquid Chrome 20 Years Edition pen, and it really is liquid chrome. You can end up getting a mirror-like effect with this pen. It's kind of amazing. On paper, it doesn't have a mirror-like effect, but it's very shiny, but if you put it on something that is not porous, it's totally just like a mirror or like chrome. I'm wondering if you can put acrylic down and then put this on top of that, and it would have that mirror-like effect. I'm definitely going to try that out this Inktober. Now let's talk about accessories. These are Dinky Dips. They are little containers for your ink that make it really easy for you to put a dip pen in them. Unfortunately, the lids crack pretty easily, but I think they have some new type that you can screw on, and those are not as bad. But these are really convenient because trying to put your pen into a big bottle like this can be really difficult. But if you just have to dip it in here, you don't have to worry. A brush rest or a pen rest is always a really nice thing. I got this as a calligraphy pen rest, but I also use it as a brush rest all of the time. And it just makes sure that your brushes and pens don't go all over the place and get messy. So a shot glass is always a great thing because you can put water or you can mix things in here. These are made out of porcelain, just because I had some Meissen porcelain cups and they got chipped, as you can see. But they don't have to be porcelain. I use it also for masking fluid and mixing inks and stuff like that. You can also use glass, and that also will get cleaned off really easily from ink or acrylic. So pipettes are totally necessary. If you don't have bottles with their own pipettes in them, you need to get something like these. You can get a huge set for really cheap, and I tend to use them a lot, but you can also just throw them away. The ever reliable toothpick and Q-tips. You can use these to stir up your ink and make sure that they're evenly distributed. I use that a lot for my Copic Light. And this is also good for smudging colors, picking colors out. And this is a weird thing because this is actually a container for some Zillers ink. This is actually one of my favorite black inks of all time. It comes in a powder and you add hot water and it mixes into an ink, and it just gives the most perfect, crisp, black lines. Absolutely amazing with no feathering. This is just such great ink. But I don't have any more, and actually this murky, mysterious liquid is actually window cleaner, because I used to clean my calligraphy pens with water, but that led to a lot of rusting, and window cleaner, just dipping it in just like you would with ink, works pretty well, and I just keep it in this container. Probably should change it, but I haven't in a while. If you're using fountain pens, some kind of pen cleaner is good. This one is by Giabon. It smells like lemons, so it's pretty nice. I got this at Green & Stone in London. And yeah, it does what it says. It helps you clean your fountain pen. So if you're using more permanent inks, which have a tendency to stick around longer inside of your pen and you want to make sure it gets a good clean, use something like this. I think Roaring Klinger also has one, and several other brands. This is my very old set that I got at a yard sale, but the reason why I'm showing this to you is for the ruling pens, because you can snap this on here. We'll put this down. And then you have a ruling pen. And what is the point of a ruling pen? Well, architects used to use it, and I guess they still use it maybe, for making precise flat lines, making rules. And you can still use it to that. Basically what you do is you dip this into ink, and the capillary action keeps the ink in here. You can open this up. Maybe you can open this up. This one is really stiff. But as you can see, you can open it out like this, or you can close it depending on how big of a line you want. And this is great for making really thin lines, for making cool, expressive ink marks, and also for masking fluid. And it's really easy to clean off. Well, about paper. I have a bunch of A5 watercolor paper here, vaguely A5. I would suggest cutting up your paper or preparing it ahead of time so you don't have to do that on the day of. This is all hot press Fabriano Artistico. I'm using hot press because then you don't have to worry about the texture getting in the way of the pen, and I'm using watercolor paper because I think I'll probably end up putting ink and painting on my Inktober pieces, and I just wanted to have that available to me. To be honest, I feel like this is the perfect Inktober paper. This is the Nostalgie by Hanamulla. It is a sort of mixed media paper. It's got a pretty fine and flat, but not totally flat like Bristol paper. And it takes basic watercolor washes, pen, ink, and a bunch of other dry media really well. So I would definitely use this. The only reason why I didn't use it for Inktober is because I don't have any more. I'm ordering some more. The other kind of paper that is really great for Inktober is Bristol paper. This is totally flat, the flattest paper that you can get, so you don't have to worry about texture at all. Super thin lines. I like the Fabriano Bristol. It's nice and thick, 250 GSM, and I like the color and how my pens write on it. Inktober is also a really fun time to play around with different colors of paper. So this is a Canson XL Dessin Noir. I really like this for putting white lines and doing value studies and stuff like that. It's not the best paper for watercolor or anything. It's really more for drawing, but it's a black paper. For toned paper, I always just used to use chipboard, but I found this Clairefontaine paint on paper, and this is amazing because it takes watercolor well, it takes pencil well, it takes gouache well, it takes basically everything well, and it's really cheap, at least over here. So they also just came out with a gray, which I'm planning on trying out this Inktober, and I'm so excited about it. So that's it in terms of my supplies. I'm planning on putting out a video with my Inktober pieces. I made my own prompt list with a botanical theme. If you guys like this, definitely do the prompt along with me. I'd really love to see what you guys come up with. And I would love to share all of your artwork in my Instagram stories. Also, if you want to see daily updates about my Inktober, definitely come see me on Instagram or on Twitter. I have something planned for all of these Inktober pieces, but we'll talk about that at the end of October. I know Inktober is really exciting, but it can also get really anxiety-making for people. And I just wanted to remind you that it's really just about having fun. You don't have to produce a perfect artwork every time. And it's really about just getting into the habit of making something, whatever it is. So for you guys who are going to be embarking on this journey in a couple of days, good luck. I'll be out there with you. And by the way, my patrons at the $5 and up level will be getting coloring pages of all of my Inktober work. I'd love to see you over there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was helpful and gave you some ideas about different supplies. You do not need to have all these supplies. All you need is some kind of a pen and some kind of a piece of paper. See you guys next time. But until then, be gentle with yourself. Bye.